Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OurScoop.com. You already should know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OurScoop.com, the authority on Temple Athletics. I'm your host, John DeCarlo, the editor of OurScoop.com. Not quite a full house this week. No Jason Yevis, no Colin Schofield, but with me today are OurScoop.com assistant editor Kyle Gauss and one of our finest staff reporters, Ryan Mack. What's going on, guys?
Nothing much. I had a good 4th of July weekend. How y'all feeling today?
Another
Good.
day. Doing good.
Another day.
John's got on his finest Easter outfit today, so we're watching that.
It's a purple shirt.
Looks
Trying to mix it up.
About to go get some deviled eggs.
I would kill for some deviled
I
eggs.
love deviled eggs.
I do. Wait, isn't there someone in your family that makes good deviled eggs? Is it Diane or Claire?
My mother makes deviled eggs. Diane's been stepping in lately and picking that up. But yeah, Diane did this year for, was it Easter or Mother's Day? I don't know. But it had like a little bacon, obviously, and then some jalapenos on it. It was very nice. It looks a little spicy deviled eggs. It was good. Crush the deviled egg. I always fall back to the same meme with deviled eggs where people are like, if somebody asks you like, here, eat these 6 eggs, you'd be like, absolutely not. But if you're like, I'm gonna have 12 deviled eggs, but yeah, I'll do that.
Ryan, you a deviled eggs guy?
No, I've never had deviled eggs before.
They're good. My mother-in-law makes very good deviled eggs. Sometimes puts them out for Thanksgiving. Sometimes in the summer. They're good.
It's a big Easter one for us, but I feel like I get it like 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
What are deviled eggs? I never really. The only experience I have with them is in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid book, where he didn't like deviled eggs and he put them in a plant, and so it smelled like rotten eggs because they died.
Like you hard boil the egg, you scoop out the yolk, and then you mix that with like mustard and like vinegar. Like you basically like recombine it with stuff, and then put it back in the scooped out egg, and then you can like garnish it with bacon bites or jalapenos or a bunch of stuff, and then usually paprika is usually on it.
Oh,
It's good.
I like that.
So it's not Easter, but we are off to a good start with talking about deviled eggs. But we do have a lot more on the way for you here on this week's episode of The Scoop. You'll hear part of my interview with new Temple assistant coach Bill Courtney, news of an upcoming Temple football verbal silent commit. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. Some roster discussions. Preseason camp gets closer. We'll also answer more of your mailbag questions and enjoy another round of On Around the State. Even though Jason isn't able to be on the pod this week, Ryan's going to be filling in there. The Scoop, as always, brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road of the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company will not be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, who will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today, 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at Greenspans-law.com. That's Greenspans-law.com. We'll hear from our friend Mike Greenspan a little bit later in the pod as he provides his weekly tip prior to the mailbag. As I mentioned just a couple moments ago, Temple was up to 25 verbal commitments. No announcements between last week's pod and this week's pod, but we've learned through a few sources that we've talked to that a 26th and a 27th verbal could be on the way pretty soon. A couple of guys that haven't announced yet. So as always, stay tuned to our OurScoop.com football message board, where we'll keep you updated on the football recruiting front and keep following our coverage, keep following Kyle's coverage. Again, we're on the On3 platform now. Appreciate your patience with that. Getting more stories over. Hopefully our message board, previous message board post will be back pretty soon. But again, if you're running,
I hope so.
Yeah. Again, if you're running into any issues, a few of you here and there have just said, hey, I'm having problems logging in. Support@on3.com is your best bet there, but we're up and running on that platform. And again, if you're running into any quirks or any just glitches, just let us know. But again, appreciate everyone's patience on that front. All right, let's dive into my interview with new Temple assistant coach Bill Courtney, obviously a 30-year veteran with a ton of assistant coaching experience. He most recently was the interim head coach, was kind of hit with the unenviable task of taking over for his mentor, Jim Larinaga, who decided in late December to retire. So I talked to Bill for probably 25 minutes or so yesterday morning. So alscoop.com subscribers, if you subscribe to alscoop.com, you have already been able to listen to the entire interview. You're only going to get about 7 or 8 minutes worth of it here on the pod. So we do like to save the entire conversation, some of these one-on-one interviews exclusively for subscribers, but you'll hear from Bill Courtney how things came together with Adam. Obviously, they worked together for 2 years on Jim Larinaga's staff, and they talk a lot. You know, you'll hear him say they talk a lot over the phone, and he knew a lot about this roster coming in. So he's able to get a good head start. Adam Fisher, of course, did not want to lose Chris Clark, but Chris Clark saw a good opportunity to head back to his alma mater at St. Joe's Prep. And at this juncture, you know, some of this coaching news only, I don't want to say only, but sometimes happens in March and April where you typically have those things happening. So all things considered, this is a win for Adam, I think, getting a guy with Bill Courtney's experience. Again, 30 years of experience, was previously the head coach at Cornell, was a really good player at Bucknell. Kyle mentioned last week that he's been a really successful recruiter, particularly in that DMV area. So we talked a lot about that on the full interview, but you'll hear here, like I said, about how things came together with Bill Courtney, why he wanted to come to Temple, why he respects Adam. So we'll play this interview for you, and then we'll have more basketball news and basketball conversation on the other side. Given your career, given your track record, your resume, I imagine you probably had some options to work at a number of different places. You have the obvious connection with Adam. Talk to me about how this came together. Were you his first call once Chris Clark left, given the friendship that the two of you have?
Yeah, well, Adam and I keep in contact all the time. We talk, constantly during the season. We talked a lot after the season about what was going on, the different things going on in college basketball, and all kinds of different things. And we had been talking about, what I was going to do next, and I was trying to figure it out, weigh my options and stuff like that. And because I think I have such great respect for him as a coach and as a person. We eventually, when Chris decided to leave, it became a very attractive thing for me to just go ahead and join him at Temple University.
You've done so much in your 30 years as a college coach. You've been a head coach. You've learned by the side of one of the greatest coaches to ever do it, Jim Larinaga. Do you get to a certain point in your career where you essentially say, look, I just want to work with someone I know and trust?
Yeah, I think that was a big part of it. Obviously, our relationship with Coach Fisher has been terrific over the years. And when you've been in this business for so long, you definitely want to work with good people. And not only my relationship with Coach Fisher, but also Mike Huger, Jimmy Popolosi. Those guys are guys that I've known and worked with before, who are terrific people, more than just basketball coaches. And you want to be able to go to work and enjoy yourself every day and have enjoyment with the people you're around. And I think we have that here at Temple.
I know it's super early on, but like you mentioned, there's Michael Huger, there's Jimmy. Jimmy kind of went viral a few years ago in the tournament where he's running shoes out there and everybody started calling him Jimmy Sneaks. And it's like Miami North, but how much does that help when you're getting things, especially in 2025, where it's a mostly new roster, the portal is what it is, and just having worked together, having that sense of commonality, common values, does it make the onboarding process just that much quicker?
Well, definitely. You're going to have new players every year now. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. That's the way it is. But if you can have some continuity amongst your staff, it can be very helpful. The different language, the different vocabulary used on and off the floor, the different tenets that you have in your program that you're trying to establish. I think those things are very important. And when you have continuity in your staff, it certainly helps the players when you're trying to communicate to those guys what it is you exactly want.
You mentioned before that you and Adam are really close. You've been in that head coach's seat before, both in your 6 seasons at Cornell, and then you take on the unenviable task of taking over for your mentor when he retires. So you've been tested by a lot of different factors and scenarios in your career. From your perspective, how have you seen Adam evolve and find his way through just these first 2 seasons as a first-time head coach?
Well, I think, you really hit your sweet spot when you're going into your 3rd year. You really kind of figure out what it is that you want to do, what it is that you really want to communicate with the players. And you've seen Adam do that, his improvement from year 1 to year 2, and even handling this new era of change in your roster and constant movement. The way he handled the spring was fantastic. Again, I stayed in communication with him during that time, and to watch him navigate these choppy waters was unbelievable. So I think that shows just the incredible amount of growth and his potential as a head coach.
Talk to me about the Adam Fisher that you worked with at Miami under Jim Larrañaga. This was the guy that was, that was before he gone to Penn State and gotten the job at Temple. What was he like back then as a young assistant?
Well, he's an extremely hard worker, and he stands. He's still that today. He outworks everyone. He's extremely organized, extremely thorough, extremely intelligent, and a great communicator. I always joke with him. I say, "You're the best recruiter I know, besides me." I can't give him that title yet, but he does a terrific job in recruiting. He cares about the players. He really invests and pours himself into the players. And I think they appreciate that. I think they enjoy their time with him and playing for him.
With the exception of the three returning players you have, and Aiden Tobias and Babatunde Duradola and Mohamed Kita, like we said, you're coming into a program with a mostly new roster about midway through the summer. But because you talk to Fish so much, and I had a chance to just catch up with him briefly yesterday, and he was like, Bill and I talk all the time. I pick his brain all the time, and we're on the phone after games. Do you almost kind of feel like you knew this roster and knew this program before you even got here because of the constant phone calls with Fish? And like, how much does that help you just slip in here in the summer and say, I know what I'm looking for here. I know what I expect to see for the most part.
Yeah, I think it certainly helps. You honestly don't know until you actually get here.
Yeah.
But I think it certainly helped that we talked constantly because I knew what he was looking for, the guys he was bringing on visits, the guys that actually ended up signing with Temple University. And I think that was very, very helpful. It allowed me to get a little bit of a head start. Everything's new when you're making this transition, but certainly the familiarity and our conversations every day helps me with, knowing some of the characteristics of the guys.
You've been at a bunch of different places. What's possible at Temple?
Well, it's one of the traditional basketball schools. It's a place where people love basketball. And I think anytime you have that, you have a certain passion amongst your fan base and the people around the program. So I think you can accomplish great things. Obviously, things have changed. Your resources have to be in place, and there's things that you have to do differently than you did before. But I think these guys did a remarkable job in the spring with the resources they have of going out and get the right type of character kids. So far, this has been, these guys have been great. Their character shows every single day in the way they approach workouts, the way they work out, how hard they play. I think that's that's a great start. We have some things to work on, but when you have humble kids who are grateful for being here and very happy to be part of Temple basketball, I think that helps.
I know it's been 10, 11, 12 days for you. I know you can't talk about specific players that you're recruiting, but I feel like these last 10, 11 days have probably been a mix of like you're on campus, then you're out like Philly Live. I know you guys were out watching a player that's a local priority for you, and then you'll be out on the road again soon. How much of it has been out on the road and then back in the building, just getting to know your current players?
Yeah, I've tried to not miss any workouts, but yeah, this is a crazy time of year, especially in college basketball. Coaches, you got to go recruiting on the weekends, you got workouts during the week, and I'm also trying to make a move from Miami. So I went back home July 4th weekend, try to get some stuff packed and, go home and rent a U-Haul and drive it back. But this road, this weekend we'll be on the road recruiting. It's a busy time, but, you just trying to identify guys that you think will fit. Obviously, recruiting is different now because you not only have this portion of it, which is the July summer recruiting in the high school kids, the spring is just as important when you're recruiting the portal. And so you keep an eye out for everything. You try to gather names and gather information, but it's certainly a busy time.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed part of my conversation there with Bill Courtney. Again, a reminder, great time to subscribe to owlscoop.com. What you didn't hear there and what subscribers are getting is some more in-depth reaction from Bill and insight into the roster, including a couple of players that he's really, really excited about. One on the defensive front, one that he thinks can take a really big step for the program this year. So some really good insight from Bill Courtney there that you don't want to miss. A lot more if you are an owlscoop.com subscriber. A little bit of scheduling talk, as some of you might, if you're real devout Temple basketball and American Athletic Conference fans. Thought this was kind of interesting to pass along because of something that Tim Pernetti had talked to me about a few weeks ago. So I'm taking this from the Memphis Commercial Appeal. So Memphis has signed a 4-year scheduling agreement with Baylor, and I'm taking this, from the story. Penny Hardaway has strengthened his already stout 2025-26 Memphis basketball schedule, and we're going to be talking about Temple's schedule a little bit down the line here. By adding Baylor to the mix, the school announced on July 7th, so just a few days ago, Tigers and Bears have agreed to a 4-year home-and-home series that is set to begin on December 6th. It's going to be on CBS, Paramount Plus, at FedEx Forum. Here's the interesting part. As part of AAC Commissioner Tim Pernetti's performance-based revenue distribution philosophy, schools whose quality home non-conference games are picked up by linear television will receive 100% of the media rights payout rather than a share along with the rest of the league's members. That's what the American Athletic Conference told the Commercial Appeal. So Memphis's game with Baylor falls into that category according to the league. So again, why do we bring this up? If you'll recall, in my conversation with Tim Pernetti, he broke the news to me that he was bringing in former Big East Commissioner Mike Tranghese as a consultant. And one of the things that he talked about, and I think it's a common talking point or sticking point, or something that the American fights for as things have changed, he emphatically said that the American can't be a one-bid league. It shouldn't be a one-bid league. But one of the problems that teams are running into is, how do you schedule your way into the tournament? If you win the conference, you get the automatic bid, you're in. But I think a program like Temple and some other schools have said, okay, well, Temple, I think, feels like they're in this kind of like this weird catch-22 area where like some programs see them as maybe a buy game, but they don't want to schedule Temple because if they lose to them, they don't want to lose to them. But if they beat them, they were supposed to beat them. And like scheduling has been a challenge. And again, I'm paraphrasing here, but Tim Pernetti had basically said, like, look, we have to schedule better and teams have to invest in that. So that was one of the things that he talked about. We can't be a one-bid league. And one of the things he talked about was a need to improve scheduling. So I thought this was interesting. This is proof that Memphis is trying to take steps in that direction. And Tim is continuing to prioritize revenue as he should. So I thought this was an interesting piece of news to pass along.
Yeah, the only thing that stands out to me is Memphis isn't the problem.
Right. I know that's the thing. Like they're typically positioned with the revenue they have to win.
Right. Yeah, and the reason the reason the American was a one-bid conference last year is because Memphis won the championship.
Yep.
Like if Memphis had lost to someone along the way, it would have been a two-bid league. I think where it really comes down to is I think USF's supposed to be decent this year. North Texas is going on a road trip to Oregon State and St. Mary's back to back. So you're starting to see some more out of conference scheduling that maybe can help buoy it. I just think that a lot of this seems to me, I don't want to put words in Tim Pernetti's mouth. A lot of this seems to me like a little bit of placating to Memphis of here are the ways we can sweeten the pot to prevent you from pursuing the Pac-12.
Yep.
So it was
Absolutely. I was going to say that. Yeah.
You want some extra money? You think you deserve more money than the Tulsas and the Temples of the world? Here's how you can do it.
Yep.
You schedule these games. We have a consultant now that'll help you kind of figure these things out. You have Penny has his own existing relationships. This is how you get more of the rev share. So it's noteworthy to me. A 4-year agreement is also just interesting between a Big 12 team and an American team. But I think the rest of the schools, Temple included to an extent, need to also get in line. South Florida is doing I think Temple would have gladly done this too. South Florida is in the battle for Atlantis this year. So that's VCU, that's Vanderbilt, that's Virginia Tech. That's a bunch of should be quality games that you might play. I just haven't seen that from Temple yet. Not for lack of trying, but just I don't see those marquee events yet.
A lot of good points there. So something to keep an eye on. And again, we will talk a little bit of Temple basketball scheduling in the mailbag a little bit later on. Our friend Varun Kumar, who's occasionally written for us in the past, texted a question over to me this morning that we will answer pertaining to the schedule. All right, guys, preseason camp for Temple football, 3 weeks away, exactly 3 weeks away. It starts July 30th. As soon as we have the schedule and media availability for the assistant coaches and players, we'll certainly pass that along. We'll drop that onto our football board. But again, it's July 9th, 21 days from now, July 30th. preseason camp gets going. It's just a little something to keep some football talk alive here. Give me one player, and again, this is kind of broad, but give me one player who you think could make the biggest difference in helping Casey Keeler's team become bowl eligible in this first season. So if they're going to become a 6-win team and become bowl eligible, obviously we know football is a collective effort, but give me one guy that we'll look back on and say he was an X factor. He made a difference.
I'm going to go Ty Davis, linebacker coming in from UDEL. Their linebacking core was probably their biggest strength last year, like J.J. Woodbury with Typhon King, losing them. But having him coming into the fray here, we've talked about how good that defense has been throughout the entire spring ball. Granted, the spring ball, people are still getting used to positions, everything. But seeing him, how good he was at UDEL playing different positions, and seeing how easy it was just for him to transition. And we'll see how it is when summer camp starts. I feel like he is someone that we're going to see under Brian Smith's defense that can kind of like help take them to a different gear kind of, and will be a big key in them and becoming bowl eligible. I know it's kind of hard to say because we haven't like seen him play in a Temple uniform yet, but he's someone I'm kind of thinking.
I think that's a good point. I think he's versatile enough too that like you'll see him in so many different packages that like it's kind of hard to imagine him not making some sort of an impact. I'll go on the other side of the ball, and this is a bit of a cop out because this isn't exactly a obscure name, but I think this more than his backup. If Jay Ducker has a good year, that tells me that the offensive line had a good year. Because I think if you said Terez Worthy has kind of like that dynamic aspect that like maybe he can be successful even without the offensive line performing at its fullest. I mean, you've seen 75-yard touchdowns at him in the past. I think if Jay Ducker, if you look back at the end of the year and you go, wow, Jay Ducker had 1,100 yards, that tells me that the offensive line did step up and has improved to the point that they made it seem like they were during the spring ball. If you all of a sudden you're telling me that Jay Ducker, a guy that led Memphis in rushing, was a productive rusher at Sam Houston, the 1,000-yard guy in Northern Illinois, if you're telling me all of a sudden he had 200 carries for 550 yards, that tells me the offensive line probably has not taken those steps, and that leads me to believe it would be a long season. So I will say Jay Ducker.
I have a 1A and a 1B if I'm allowed, but I'm going to go with
Sure.
I'm going to go with Tyrese Whitaker. When I talked to Casey Keeler about a month ago, I started off the conversation. I said, hey, you've been really optimistic. You've been doing this for a long time. I think you're smart enough to not paint yourself into a corner. He joked around and said, hey, my daughter says that I'm really optimistic, so I am kind of that way. But one of the guys he talked about, and he put some expectations on him, was Tyrese Whitaker. So when Temple recruited him out of Northeast High School a few years ago, now he's coming into his redshirt sophomore season. He's 6'2", 230 pounds. This was a guy that the program was excited about, and they said, hey, we got one of the better players in the city of Philadelphia. And Casey said, sometimes a guy just needs a change of scenery. And he talked about when he and his staff came in, they weren't necessarily keeping their eyes peeled for him, but they talked about just how much of a pleasant surprise he's been. Again, he's a very good player at Northeast High School, but Casey Keeler said, I feel like he can be a double-digit sack guy for us as a guy on the edge. So if that comes to fruition, obviously a big, big if, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, hey, if you have a guy with that kind of production on the edge, coupled with, again, a good performance from a guy like Ty Davis, as Ryan just mentioned, now you're potentially making some things happen, and you're really truly affecting the quarterback on defense. So I'm thinking Tyrese Whitaker. My dark horse would be, and another thing that Casey talked about a month ago, he said, we're excited about Carl Harden. We're going to be a team that hopes to keep games close, and we feel really good about our special teams. So if Carl Harden is as good or close to as good as Maddox Trujillo, again, I don't expect Carl Harden to go out there and kick a 65-yard field goal, but he consistently, day in and day out, again, we were able to be at every single, we had a staff member every single spring practice, and we talked about how good the kickers look, but Carl Harden's the guy, and Darren Wu and Lucas Glassburn look good as well. But they might have a kicker who, hey, they hang around in a game, comes down to, are they down 2 and they need a field goal to win, or is the game tied? Could win them a couple of games. So we're 3 weeks away, 21 days away from preseason camp. Time is flying by. The summer is flying by way too quickly.
Yeah, I think to your point with Whitaker, that would be noteworthy just because, let's say he has 11 sacks. That's the first time since Quincy Roche that Temple players had double-digit sacks. Like even when Leighton Jordan had that like year that he peaked, he only got to 9.
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting to me too, because a lot of this is guesswork, right? But when you look back at like Brian Smith's Rice teams, they didn't really have a guy who was just like a dominant sack guy. Like they kind of like spread it across the entire team. You'd see a bunch of guys with 3, 4, 5 sacks. For all of a sudden this defense to kind of like feature somebody like that would be a change. It's not like it's unbelievable, this the complete fantasy land, but it would be a change from the past.
So we're ramping up, getting closer to preseason camp. So again, keep your mailbag questions coming if you guys want to talk football. I know that this has been a little bit more of a basketball heavy episode with the Bill Courtney interview, but we'll be talking a lot more football, not just on the recruiting front, but now we're going to be diving into the roster and position battles and stuff. So we are certainly looking forward to that. Guys, on or around this date, so Jason could not be with us this week. He is interning at the Inquirer this summer and has a meeting, so he couldn't be with us this week. So am I to understand that Kyle and Ryan, or no, Ryan, you're just handling it? You and Kyle are not tag teaming on this? This is just you?
Yeah, it's just me.
All right. What do you got for us?
Welcome to Around This Date, everyone. I'm your host today, Ryan Mack. John, do you want birthdays or events?
Let's go birthdays.
I got you. Bet. So first one we got here, this former NFL running back was born on July 10th in Preston, Mississippi.
What year? July 10th?
1960.
Oh.
1960.
Yeah.
65-year-old running back. So he would have played in the 80s.
Was it Walter Payton?
Nah.
And Earl Campbell's a Texas guy.
Yeah.
Franco Harris.
Nah.
He's a Jersey
Yeah.
guy. So does Ryan know your Franco Harris story? It's so funny that you brought that up. I literally thought about this yesterday.
It's not a story. It's
just
just
your
that up
quirk.
until like 4 or 5 years ago, I thought his name was Frank O. Harris. Like it was just like an Irish guy that was like running for the Steelers. Turns out it's not. His name's Franco.
All right, so July 10th, 1960?
Yeah, 1960. Do you need a hint? Do you want like a team
A
or like
team,
an
an
area?
accomplishment.
Okay. He was the first running back to hit 1,000 receiving yards and 1,000 rushing yards.
Oh, I almost had a bad guess.
Was it Bo? No, it wasn't Bo Jackson, was it?
Nah.
I don't know. I was about to guess Charlie Garner, and that Charlie Garner is not nearly old.
Marcus Allen?
No. Played on this played for that one of the teams that Marcus Allen played for though.
The Chiefs or the Raiders.
Not Christian Okoye.
I don't know.
Roger Craig?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right. Number
Good poll.
33 for the 49ers. Took a little while to get there, but we got it.
This former college football coach was born on July 10th, 1964 in Toledo, Ohio.
Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
I knew he was from Toledo.
You a big Urban Meyer fan, Kyle?
Kyle loves Urban Meyer.
Oh yeah. I do appreciate
Looks up
Urban
to him
Meyer
as a matter
when he
of
was
fact.
with the Jaguars, just like, I don't give a crap, I already got my money. Like not going back with the team after losses, but I'm gonna stick around. I want a bar down here.
Let's just put in the best 35% I have here.
Yeah, like he was just mailing it. It's like a compound interest. Like at a certain point, you put enough in the bank in your 20s, 30s. He's just living off and down.
Yeah. Yeah. But the key takeaway, Kyle Gauss loves Urban Meyer.
Very good Urban Meyer guy. Next one is, this actress was born on this date in 1972. I'm not going to say where, it might give it away.
1972.
53 years old.
She was on a long-standing.
Jennifer Aniston?
Good guess.
No. She was on a long-standing.
Cox.
No.
She was on what? What were we about to say?
She was on a long-standing sitcom. I think it ran for 11 years.
Lisa Kudrow.
Nah.
All right, so we've eliminated Friends.
We've eliminated Friends.
Don't think 90s. Think late 2000s, 2010s.
Not Zoe Deschanel.
Okay, let's try. Will, is it The Office or is it?
No.
Okay, 2010s. Modern Family.
Julie Bowen.
No.
Sofia Vergara.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I was gonna say from Colombia, but I feel like that would have made it a little bit too easy.
Yeah.
Her didn't her and her husband split up because he wanted kids, and she was just like, no.
I believe so.
Yeah.
What's his name? Who's her ex-husband? The guy, he's from
Joe
Pittsburgh.
something. Joe
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And then last birthday, July 11th. This former president was born in 1767.
1767.
Yep.
Van Buren.
No.
Polk.
No.
Do you know the president number?
Yes. 6.
Oh, okay.
That's John Quincy Adams?
Yes.
Oh. All right.
I think I've lost the last 2 president questions, which is concerning for me.
Yeah, but I think you got like the previous 38 before that, so you're on quite a run.
Yeah, Kyle, you gotta let someone else have them.
Yeah.
Now moving on to events here. Not a lot happened on July 10th, so most of them are going to be on July 11th. On July 11th, 1804, this famous political figure died.
Washington?
No.
1804.
Thomas Paine,
No.
the man who penned Common Sense. 1804?
What did he do?
There was a very famous retelling of him.
Paul Revere?
Hamilton.
Yes, Hamilton.
Okay.
Where did he
Hamilton.
die, John?
Alexander Hamilton?
Yeah.
Oh, God. This is something super simple. And I'll try. Wait, wasn't he shot in a duel or no?
Yeah, by Aaron Burr, Vice President of the
right,
United
yes.
States. But
Where did
Where?
it happen? Somewhere in Virginia?
Weehawken, New Jersey.
Over an
Must-
argument about high school football.
Well, yeah. Over an argument over 50 years of disagreement.
Who's going to win the Group
40
4
years.
state title this year? Let us walk 10 paces and decide this.
Aaron Burr, Vice President of the United States, then went to the West and tried to lead a rebellion against the United States.
Another guy that you also look up to.
Yeah, big Aaron Burr guy.
Yeah.
That was a
Just
big
did-
in 2005 when Lazy Sunday came out. That song by
Oh,
by
that's
SNL
so
and Leon.
tremendous.
And they had that line, "You can call me Aaron Burr from the way I'm dropping Hamiltons."
Yes.
Oh my.
That was it was a very good skit.
I don't know even how to segue out of that.
You got it. You got to press through.
2 more events on the slate today. On July 11th, 2007, this movie was released.
The Hangover?
Nah,
We say that what movie? What type of movie?
it's in the franchise.
Oh, okay. So 2007. I had just graduated high school. What was I seeing in 2007?
Is it a Mission Impossible movie?
Is that a Fast and Furious movie?
Nah, it's like a fantasy type movie.
In 2007. Oh, was it a Harry Potter movie? In 2007, I'm gonna say it was Goblet of Fire.
No.
Order of the Phoenix.
Yes.
Okay.
J.K. Rowling, another one of Kyle's titles, gets a lot of play on the scoop.
I think we mentioned her like 2 weeks ago.
Probably a solid half dozen J.K. Rowling references. But again, we're just checking off Kyle's idols.
Like is this episode about me?
I think
This
it
is
is.
just my mentors. We talked about Bill Courtney's mentors. Are these my mentors?
Yeah. Jim Larinaga, J.K. Rowling, 2 similar people.
Aaron Burr.
Jay was nervous last week about just bringing up controversial figures. No, we got you covered.
That was a couple weeks
We
ago.
got you covered this week, buddy. Take a week off and just drink it in. That was pretty funny last week, and he was like, "No, I'm trying to stay away from controversial people." All right, this next football player was, oh no,
He brought up like Kanye, P. Diddy,
Michael Vick.
Michael Vick. Yeah.
At which point you just said, "Oh, I just thought he went away for a few weeks."
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You weren't on last week, right, Ryan?
No, I wasn't on it.
He just like unintentionally was like, I'm staying away from controversial characters. Anyway, this Virginia Tech quarterback.
Oh, no, and he just caught himself. It was very funny. It's a highlight.
Oh my God.
Oh, you got one more, Ryan?
Yeah, I got one more. This one is on July 10th.
Okay.
On this day, 1991, this political figure took office.
1991.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton.
No.
Oh no,
No.
no, 1991. It's an off year. It's not an election.
Yeah, Bush was still president.
How about how I emphatically was like, oh, Bill Clinton? You guys are like,
He was in Arkansas. He was governor.
Wait, the guy is from Arkansas? The answer to
No,
this
I'm
question?
saying that's where Bill Clinton
Oh,
was.
okay. Just hanging out with Nolan Richardson, talking about 40 minutes of hell.
He became the first person elected.
Oh, so it's USSR. It's Boris Yeltsin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because the wall fell in 89,
Mhm.
90, 90, 90. So yeah. Mr. Gorbachev tear down that wall was in the mid 80s. But I was born when the wall was still up, so I think it was 89.
A few years after Rocky ended the Cold War in Rocky 4.
I told you I forced my dad a couple weeks ago to just watch like 2 straight Rocky movies, and I don't think he had seen them in like 30 years. And I'm like, no, this is Rocky. Rocky defeats communism.
Yeah, and didn't you say he was offering commentary like, oh, this is
He like offered like boxing commentary. Like,
Wow.
oh, he's just like he's gonna get out of the corner there. I'm like, a 7-foot Russian just threw him into the corner, Dad. Like, and then like that fight's all like after the bell stuff. Like, Drago's just hitting them. They're hitting each other. He's screaming like it. It would have been called off after the first round.
I know you told me this. Was it Rocky 4 and Rocky 5 or Rocky 3 and Rocky 4?
Rocky 3 and Rocky 4. I did not make him watch Rocky 5.
Mike Mudrick, big Rocky 5 guy. He's like the only person I know who like celebrates Rocky 5.
Tommy
When-
Gunn.
Yeah, when R.I.P. Tommy Morrison. Have you seen Rocky 5, Ryan?
For Christmas when I was in third grade, I got a DVDs of all the first 6 of the Rocky movies.
Mhm.
So good.
It was great. So during my Christmas break, we watched one Rocky movie a night. They're my guilty pleasure movies. I love it how it just decreases its seriousness as it keeps
Yes.
going. And in Rocky 4 is 50% of it is just a montage.
But it's so good though.
In
Oh,
my
it's-
mind, I hadn't seen Rocky 4 in years. In my mind, I thought it was like a 30-minute him being in Russia. Like, oh, it's not. He's in Russia for like 8 minutes, and 6 minutes of it's a montage.
Well, there's 2 separate montages when he's in Russia too. It's like he's training, and then Adrian comes out in the cold and everything, and it's another montage. And next thing you know, they're in Russia. They're fighting. I'm okay.
He outruns the USSR agents against them, and they like have like this little like slapstick like kicking the tire afterwards. Like, why can't we get out of the snow? Like, it's an absurd movie.
This guy in black jeans and boots outran us.
After Apollo dies, and in the montage of him in the car, I'm like, oh my God.
He's supposed to be like living in like somewhere like on the main line, but I think it's in California, but he's where they filmed it. But he's like all of a sudden he like drives and he's like through that tunnel by the Schuylkill Expressway and like pops out by the art
Is
museum.
that where it's No Easy Way Out?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other montage is Hearts on Fire.
Yeah.
But the best character in that movie, by far, John,
The robot?
the robot.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Paul's like, she
Girlfriend.
loves me. Like,
I love Rocky 3. Just the montage of Apollo and Rocky running in the short shorts on the beach.
on the beach, yeah.
It's great.
I would like our listeners to know that just on video here on Zoom, you took your 2 fingers and as if to envision them running. When I used to watch Rocky 3 as a kid, I would purposely walk away from the TV when Mickey died. It really made me sad. My parents would be like, "Where are you going?" I'd just be like, "I don't like watching this part. It makes me sad."
Rocky 3 ends with them doing the fight at the end, right? Where they're in like the gym. He's like,
Yeah.
ding, ding.
Yeah.
And then Rocky 4 starts with them doing the fight. So if you wanted to walk away for a minute, miss the entire credits, that could just be one movie.
Yeah.
It could be they pause at the punch and then you start with the punch landing and you're like, okay, now we're back at it. Another movie. Rocky 5, not to get too far into Rocky. Best part of Rocky 5 is the fact in the street fight at the end, the septibus illuminates the fight.
Yes.
Like, it's just like an old like late 80s septibus being like, I got all the lighting you need. It saw the future. There were plenty of piles of trash laying around.
I don't know if that was a fruitful negotiation. We're now into city politics. We are so far off track here. And that painting that you referenced, if you want to see that actual painting, go to Victor Cafe, 13th and Dickinson. They have it in the restaurant.
That's awesome.
Because that's where his restaurant is in Rocky 6 or Rocky Balboa, Adrian's. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
Which,
of
how does
Rocky
he get the money between 5 and 6? Because 5, he's like down on his luck.
Oh, he's definitely. And he doesn't pay, like, he didn't win any prize money from beating Tommy Morrison. That was just a street ball.
If anything, it cost him. He probably got an assault charge.
Yeah.
Like, they got in like a full-on brawl. He destroys public property.
Literally says, where Duke says, touch me and I'll sue. Sue me for what? So, yeah, you're right.
So he has no money, and yet Rocky 6.
A lot of
He's like
overhead to run a
doing
restaurant.
pretty
Yeah,
good.
where's
Restaurant, 90% of restaurants fail within like 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So his survived, and it's enough for him to be probably paid for his kid to go to like the prep. Like he was able to kind of scrounge his life back together.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if this happened in modern life, he'd be on Cameo. He'd
Yeah.
be like Rocky Balboa charging $150 on Cameo just to pay his mortgage that year.
Yeah. Good stuff. A lot of interesting stuff on or around this date. All right, before we head into the mailbag here, we will hear once again from our friend Mike Greenspan of Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. Mike is the best injury lawyer you could hope to find, but he wants to keep you safe on the roadways and in life. So here is Mike's weekly tip, and then we will hop into the mailbag to answer your mailbag questions.
It has now rained for 8 consecutive weekends this spring in New York. And despite having all this rain, it seems that there are a lot of us who are on the roads, especially the highways during a rainstorm, who have forgotten some of the rules that you need to remember to keep everybody safe. Most important is, of course, driving at a reduced speed when your visibility has been reduced by the weather. Driving on a highway at the same speed you would drive on a sunny, dry day during a thunderstorm is generally not a good idea. What about city streets? Here's the big thing. You can be driving on a city street and see water in front of you and think, I can drive through this. You have no idea how deep the hole is that water has filled. Do yourself a favor. You see water on a city street, drive around it. Do not attempt to go through it. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck. Let's hope the sun finally does come out tomorrow.
First question here. We got a few questions texted to us this week. Our friend Varun Kumar, what's the non-conference schedule as where it stands right now? He's talking about basketball. So a little apropos to something that just came out. We talked about how the pods were going to change for the Big Five. So now Temple is in the pod with Villanova. So they're going to be playing was that December 1st, Kyle? I'm not looking at the tweet right now. They're playing at the Pavilion.
November 11th, LaSalle comes to Temple. The Pavilion is December 1st. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So they're going to get LaSalle and Nova in the Big Five. And if they
real quick, I'm not going to call it the John Glazer Arena. His mama named him Tom Gola Arena. I'm going to call it Tom Gola Arena. Yeah.
So in addition to being in that Big Five pod with Villanova and LaSalle, they do have return games from Boston College and Davidson, as well as Hofstra. And then they're playing in the Terry's Chocolate Invitational.
That's right.
Florida.
In the adventure bracket. But it's at Worldwide Sports down at Disney World.
There are 3 different brackets.
I will actually be at Disney World. Am I at Disney World during that? I'm either there that weekend or the following weekend.
If you're there, Kyle, are we getting some Kyle Gauss gamers at?
We'll be getting a Jordan Gauss byline.
Oh, so yeah, I'm there. So they play the 24th through the 26th. So they're playing right before Thanksgiving. I will be there right after Thanksgiving. I get there the 30th.
So we almost had a Jordan Gauss byline. Jordan probably crushed a Temple gamer, right?
Jordan got his haircut yesterday or 2 days ago, and he got like way too short. Like he has like a fade, and I don't like it. I think little boys should have like a little bit of hair to him.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like a grown man.
Does he like it?
Oh yeah, Jordan's a big hat guy, and usually he wears a hat to school. And on Monday or Tuesday, he was like making up excuses like, "Oh, this hat doesn't fit right. It's too tight." And I'm like, "But do you just not want to wear a hat?" Yeah, I want the teachers to see my new haircut. And I was like, you could just ask. Like you could just say you don't want to wear a haircut. You're trying to show off to the teachers that are in their 30s that they did all notice. They all noticed.
Got a little swagger to him. That's some confidence right there.
The tornado yesterday scared the crap out of my kid. I was like, we get in the basement. He was like, that was 20 minutes of panic. Enjoy.
Was it a tornado?
I think it touched base like more like north of us. Yeah.
Did you not get as much severe weather up in do you consider yourself Central Jersey when you're home, or still South Jersey? Yeah.
Central Jersey.
Yeah. All right. So
yeah, we got a lot of it was like really bad like rain and stuff. I got the tornado warning, but I was in my car driving to the movie theater when that happened, so I was just praying that nothing happened.
Tornado watch is the worst one, right? That's like there's been sightings. Whichever one that was, that's the one we got. Because they were like, this is radar detected tornado. So we're all down in the basement and my son's freaking out. Haley is probably just punching drywall, just getting ready for her next fight. Like she's unfazed.
We came away relatively unscathed in Havertown.
Yeah,
but-
I had nothing. Like not even branches or anything. It's
Yeah.
fine.
So that's your basketball non-conference men's basketball.
Oh, quick,
schedule.
one important thing to note.
Yes.
The NCAA did vote that you're allowed up to 32 regular season games now.
Yes.
And just in case this was up in the air, I have confirmed the American will not be going to 19 games. So the only way Temple could play 32 games would be if they added another out of conference game.
Yeah. Next question here from the screen name Fig1 from our OwlScoop message board. Favorite Jersey Shore destination and food connected with it. Happy summer.
He answered the question to me because he included a photo of Lucy from Margate. So I grew up going to Margate. I've been going to Brigantine a lot lately. But growing up, I went to Margate, and I will say Margate is probably still my favorite.
We were talking about Margate recently. Do you have a favorite place to eat in Margate?
Not
No.
really, because I associate it more with like when I was a kid and like my early 20s, where like you're bringing stuff or you're getting hoagie. I guess I'll just do it. The dairy bar, like the ice cream place there is great. But yeah, I'll say Margate.
Bachelor party
Lucy.
started at Margate.
That's correct. It
Yeah.
did not end there.
No. Ended in we were all incarcerated. We were in jail. No, we were not.
Oh, one person almost was. That's fine.
Ended in Atlantic City. Ryan, do you have a favorite Jersey Shore destination and food connected with it?
Trying to juggle in between a couple. One, it would probably be LBI. Love going
Okay.
to Beach Haven. My favorite spot connected to that is the chicken or the egg.
I've heard about that
this-
place. Never been there though.
Yeah. One of my friends, he has a beach house down there, and every now and then I'll like go down and like we'll go down there for like a couple days, something like that.
You say Beach Haven? That's here, the southern part of the island.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife's uncle lives year round on LBI, but he's up in like Barnegat Light, like north of Harvey Cedars.
Yeah, it's really nice up there.
I'll shout out the crab trap from my dad. It's been 3 years since my dad passed. We used to go to we'll still go to Ocean City with my mom, my wife, my brother, and my nephews. My dad loved going to the crab trap, which is on the other side of the island, Summers Point. Margate, I love. Oh, we literally just went to Tomatoes for the first time, but
Right.
really loved it. Ventnor, Red Room, really good restaurant. And in Cape May, Sapore, really good Italian restaurant. We're trying to find like different places instead of like the standard places that you like going to.
And I recommend the Wild West Bar at Bally's in Atlantic City.
Yes.
You can get a perfectly okay buffalo chicken sandwich most hours of the night. The Wild West Bar, Bally's.
Does it still exist?
It still exists. I don't believe it's. I'd be shocked if they even still have a kitchen. But back in its heyday, it existed.
Second week, we talked about Wild West on the scoop. A lot of callbacks. I'll
Yeah.
also shout out Angelo's Fairmount Tavern in Atlantic City. We had our rehearsal dinner there. We got married in Brigantine, as Kyle knows, but Angelo's is really good because we were talking about this, Kyle. You were just in Brigantine. Not as many restaurants like on the island, but if you're in Brigantine, you want some good Italian food, you literally just drive right over the bridge and it's right there. Angelo's is really good.
Oh, in AC.
Yes, in AC.
Yeah. I went there a couple years ago. Yeah, Brigantine now is like even like 3 of the restaurants closed like last fall. So it's like 4 places. Laguna is now La Scala Fire.
Yeah. Our old wedding reception venue now, La Scala.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's 3 or 4 places on the island. Brigantine's definitely meant for just like go to
Going
the
out and
beach.
relaxing.
Yeah.
Oh, I should also say one more. I'm sorry. Port, new place that opened up between Cape May and Wildwood Crest. Really fun, right on the water, and their sushi was really, really, really good. So I'll shout them
I
out.
like how you said you should say, as if these people are going to be upset if you don't mention them.
We're depending upon the scoop to get us some new clients. 2 more questions to get to here. This is one we talked about last week. Lone Star 2000 is the screen name. What is your opinion of the football uniform modifications? If you had the final say, what would you have done differently? We'll explore that part of the question because we talked about last week how we liked the uniforms for the most part. Kyle, I think you said you didn't love the rule era uniforms, but if you had the final say on new uniform modifications, what would you have done differently?
I'm not a design guy. Like, I don't know. I didn't go to school for fashion design. I like the helmets on the new one. I'm glad they got rid of the number on the side of the helmets. I like the stripe down the middle. I think they were perfectly fine. I think they're an improvement over the last one, which I think kind of strayed a little bit too far. I think this is the sign of a perfectly good uniform is I have no like glaring like this should have been different.
Ryan, any strong uniform takes or are you good with them?
Yeah, no, I like them. I really liked the diamonds on like the helmet and on like the side of the pants. Like that was really dope to me. But I don't really have like no like strong like opinions on it.
If they have alternative uniforms, which I'm sure they probably do because everybody always has some type of alternative uniform. I hate when they just like shove the cherry in with like the gray or in with the black. I don't think they've ever done really good with like a black or gray uniform, like just presentation wise. So I would hope that if there is an alternative uniform, it's better than it has been in the past.
Couldn't agree more. Last question here. Buddy of mine from college, my friend Mark, texted this over to me this morning. His question, I do this to myself every year, especially recently with the program losing losing players, to the portal because of rev share and NIL. Am I crazy to think that Adam Fisher might have the right combination of players with roles for Temple to be a good team this year? I don't think you're crazy. We've talked about this before. Preseason polls are going to be rendered meaningless, and so many teams are just revamping their rosters. I wouldn't call you crazy. We'd be crazy to say, oh, this is definitely a tournament team because we don't know how all this is going to go. But I have thoughts on this. What do you guys think about Mark's question here?
Yeah, I don't think you're crazy. I mean, I think we're at the time of year where like hope springs eternal and you're kind of able to look over some warts. But I think when you look at the roster, you're talking like 5 senior guards. They're all new guards, but 5 senior guards that you're like, okay, all those guys are going to contribute. All those guys have played big time basketball before. I think everybody that you talk to and everybody on this podcast is excited about what incentivizing can be. So if incentivizing takes that next step, you sprinkle it in with a lot of senior leadership in that backcourt, like they should have one of the deeper backcourts in the conference. I'm assuming they're going to go legitimately 5 or 6 deep in that backcourt. The real question marks are just how they kind of always are. Like, was that Babatunde's ceiling or is that his floor? If Babatunde Toradola takes a step further and he gets better on his development, then all of a sudden you've got a true presence in the paint. Is Gavin Griffiths going to finally live up to that recruiting profile? Like, I think there's enough. I don't think they're going to be bad. I'll put it that way. I don't think they're going to be like a 12 and 18. I think they have the floor to be basically like last year's team where they win like 16, 17 games. And then if everything clicks and you blend in these 10 new scholarship players, then maybe they have the chance to be a good team. I think they're a deeper team than last year. I just don't think they're as top heavy when you had Jamal Mashburn, who was obviously great, and then Steve Sell towards the end, who was a fringish G League NBA type player. I don't think they have a sure thing caliber player like of that, but who knows? Maybe Incentivizing becomes that.
I'm on Kyle with this one. I also kind of think they've kind of gotten more players that are good at like a little bit of everything, and also have gotten more players that are specifically good at defense, which is something that we all kind of talked about last year a lot during the season that wasn't good. Can't even like mince words with it. The defense just wasn't good last year, and I think that they getting players that are like good at defense and trying to like branding a different like brand of basketball than they did last year when they can score up 90 points, but they're also giving up 89, 90 points as well. It's something to always look really optimistic for. Getting these experienced players, yes, albeit them being new, like CJ Hines is a really good find. It's not crazy to say to be optimistic about them and think that they can be good for this team. Not saying that they're going to make the NCAA tournament, but this was a squad that at one point last year had a chance to be a double bye, and probably could have been barring injuries to the team. Obviously, that's a lot of hypothetical, coulda, shoulda, woulda, because we don't know how the last 2 months would have looked. But like this is a team that's well on its way to looking like that, and maybe Aiden Bison takes a jump and they get that. Babatunde Toradola takes a jump, and you have bringing these experienced players on. I don't really think it's that crazy to be like, yes, they can be good again.
Put in perspective just how much things are up in the air. Temple, we're viewing them as massive turnover, right? You have 10 new scholarship players. According to Bart Torvik, they returned the 3rd most minutes in the conference. Like, that's how nobody knows what they're talking about.
Right.
Nobody. Like, anybody that's telling you with a straight face that UAB is better than Temple, but worse than Wichita State, nobody knows that. I think we can all make an educated guess and say Memphis is going to be pretty good because they do recruit and rev share at a higher level than everybody else in the conference. Beyond that, your guess is as good as mine. Like, Temple has the 3rd most returning minutes. They are the 4th most experienced roster in the conference, according to the same site. Like, they brought in a bunch of new guys, but those are older guys. So you would hope that makes it less of a learning curve.
Fan bases are not going to look much farther beyond their own. And when you lose players in the portal, yes, it's frustrating, but there's this insular vibe and anger where it's like, it's only happening here. It's only happening here. No, it's happening at Baylor. It was happening at some other places. And so when you hear some of the figures that Kyle just threw out there, like Temple's returning the third most experienced roster, that tells you like, wow, there's a lot of turnover everywhere. I think you guys made some really, really good points. Ryan makes a great point about defense. So if I was trying to work inside out, yes, they were a bad defensive basketball team last year. So they've got to stay healthy. They can stay healthy. You have two players on the roster that you really could have used last year that you didn't have. If Jemai Felt comes back from, now he's, obviously was made the MAC all freshman team last year, led the league with, led the conference with 46 blocks. He's returning from a torn labrum surgery in his shoulder, but you have a rim protector that you didn't have last year. You also have a very good perimeter defender that you didn't have last year in AJ Smith, a really nice add for them. So could this team take a tangible step forward with defense? Yes. So as Ryan said, maybe they play a different brand of basketball this season. Do they have a couple of players that you guys have mentioned where there's some continuity? If Aiden Tobiason takes the step forward that he thinks that he can, or we think he can, if Babatunde Duradola takes the step forward that we think he can, those are two anchors for you. And then, there's a couple of players that Bill Courtney mentioned. I don't want to give it away, but a couple of guys that he's been really impressed with so far, including a guy that we haven't talked about yet, he's talked about his length, his ability to disrupt on the defensive end. That's worth talking about. That's worth noting. You'll hear Bill Courtney talk about him in my interview with him. And as Kyle said, if some of these guys finally start to really make good on their potential, a guy like Gavin Griffiths, and a little bit that we've been able to see, and not just him standing around unguarded, with guys in his face, Gavin Griffith really looks good shooting the ball. So does CJ Hines, so it could be a different brand of basketball, but if they can stay healthy and if they defend better, it's an intriguing mix. So I think a lot of fans, Kyle's talked about this, like when it's bad, it's bad. They're losing everybody. You think, this sucks. They're going to be awful. And then you give yourself a little bit of time and then you get drawn back in again. So Mark, I don't think you're crazy. I think it's an intriguing combination of players, but as Kyle and Ryan have mentioned, they got to defend better. They need somebody to be that alpha scorer or scores, whether that's Aiden Tobias and whether it's a guy like CJ Hines, who's like just hitting a lot of shots from the perimeter, whether that's Gavin Griffiths making good on the potential he had. And maybe Jemai Felt continues to stay healthy and is that rim protector that they have certainly not had under Adam Fisher. Did they have a great rim protector under Aaron?
I mean, Nick Jourdain was
Nick Jourdain a little bit. Yeah.
Who's playing with the Knicks now in the summer league.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to like blow so much smoke that you're like, maybe I should book Final Four tickets. But like for all the talking we've just done, we haven't talked about Jordan Mason. We haven't talked about Messiah Gilliard. We haven't talked about Spencer Mahoney. Like guys that like could have roles on this team. For the first two, will definitely have roles in this team. Like Gilliard and Mason are definitely going to have roles in this team. We haven't even talked about them, and those are pretty established players. So, like, I think it's legitimately, it has the chance to be the deepest Temple team in a while, I think.
Yeah.
But also, if you hate this, if this is like your new, like, oh, this is what college basketball is now, there's so much roster turnover, it ain't going to get better. Because even when you take out the NIL and the transfer portal and all this stuff, Temple has 5 senior guards.
Yep.
They're all gone next year. This is just going to be every spring. You guys are going to have to dig yourselves out of that hole because there's going to be that come down after the season every year where you're like, oh crap, they have 7 open spots right now. This is college basketball now.
Absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in for another episode of The Scoop. We'll be back next week. More hoops talk, more football talk, anything else that you guys want to put on the agenda through the mailbag. Thank you to Bill Courtney for spending some time with me. We'll talk to you soon.